That's hilarious. I need you to concentrate. It's going to be a very serious class. You really do need to concentrate. That's funny. Thank you. We'll have to work periodically. Okay. Are we warm, cold, or hot?
Warm.
Welcome to beautiful summer. So tradition is, for those of you who haven't been here before, is we make some sounds, go blah, 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 which have some intention. See. The first one is with some hand gestures that look like this. And really the key here is not the words, but the motivation in your mind. We're going to spend 2 hours together, and you have a chance in those 2 hours to do some changes in your mindset that should have some results for you. So the beginning of that is this motivation. If you can imagine the most perfect thing you can imagine, every bliss that ever could exist, happening in an instant that is infinite, with whatever thing that looks and feels and tastes like, and create in your mind, and then offer it to the most perfect being you can imagine, that will be the beginning of your motivation. That's the first sound that we make. And the next one is we think if there is something that can get us to perfection, if there's some wisdom that we can have, that's what the thumbs in there signifies, like a jewel in your hands. Then we take shelter in that, we take some refuge in that. And we'll discuss what that means, but essentially if there is something, that something should come to your mind, and you're taking refuge, that thing will get you out of suffering. So let's make some sounds. Ukir Geshe embodies Sangha Shindu Miteguargi Drogun Nanda Shinla Chuparsho Idam Guru Ratnamandala Kamiyatayami Sangye Chidam Zaki Choknam Jamchu Bardu Dakni Japsuchi Daki Jinyengi Petsonam Ki Drola Banshir Sangedriparsho Sangye Shidam Zaki Choknam Jamchu Bardu Dakni Japsuchi Daki Jinyengi Petsonam Ki Drola Banshir Sangedriparsho Sangye Shidam Zaki Choknam Jamchu Bardu Dakni Japsuchi Daki Jinyengi Petsonam Ki Drola Banshir Sangedriparsho. Now take a comfortable seated position. We're going to meditate for just a few minutes. So back straight, legs crossed in some form or comfortable seated position. So your back is straight predominantly, the chin parallel with the ground, your eyes closed enough for you not to recognize any shapes, but open enough to get some light in there so you're not asleep. Hands either here if you're warm, or here if you're cold, or depending on your practice. And just close in to that thing inside of you that's you. And purposely leave all the things, distracting thoughts and ideas from the world of today, and give yourself the next couple of hours. Begin that by changing gears and focusing your concentration on your breath as it enters and exits the tip of your nose. Sharpen your mind's focus on the sensation of the breath as it exits and enters, being 1, exits and enters, being 2. Try and get the sensation of cool and warm and movement. And do that until you count up to 10. If your mind is distracted, start from 1 again. We'll do that for a few rounds. As soon as your mind wanders, catch it and rejoice in the opportunity you have to refocus it back on your breath. You've done a good thing by catching it. Just the breath. Now refocus your efforts until it's only the breath. That sharp mind, imagine the most perfect being you can imagine, the most evolved being you can imagine. It can be a real person or an imaginary person or being. The most evolved state of consciousness, the most evolved, beautiful body. This being is perfection. Ask them to come and be with you, and it's just you and them. They sit cross-legged in front of you. Feel the intimacy between you and them. Maybe your knees touching their knees. Think of some of their amazing qualities and have some reverence for them. If you have a practice of bowing down to them, bow down to them. If not, feel humbled at the amazing achievement that they've made. And feel happy. Now give them something, offer them something of beauty for coming to you. Beautiful sunset, magnificent flower, a sensation of happiness, something magnificent, and they accept it happily. You focus your concentration on the closeness you have with them. They are there with you, and you're with them. And in that moment, think of something that you regret having done today, in the last couple of days that could have caused somebody some pain. And feel a deep sense of regret. Had you been focused enough to avoid it, you would have, and share that regret with them. Be very specific about the incident, even if it's small. Get a resolution in your heart to stop it for the next time. Feel the sensation. Do the opposite. Imagine the most wonderful thing you've done today. You've given some happiness to some person or some people. You've made some wonderful progress. Actually have that feeling of happiness grow inside of you for having done that. Feel it grow and watch their happiness with you too. Feel some sort of joy for what others in the room have done for others. There's enough suffering in the world, and those that are giving people happinesses are going against that. That takes some effort, so rejoice that they've made those efforts in this kind of world. Now ask them to please teach you at every opportunity, at every turn, that their presence appears to your mind when you need it most, and that you learn and progress on your own evolution to becoming something more. Ask them to always stay. And they lean forward a little until your heads are almost touching and you know they're agreeing. And now imagine them shrinking and turning, facing the same direction you are, and shrinking to the size of a thumb, floating just above the tip of your head. Something magnifies in them as they sit there. They're your wisdom. Just leave them there for the duration of your class. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. So welcome all the beautiful people. Who needs Buddhism when the day's like that outside? Right? Like, we've got to have this today. What's that about? Who's been trying to memorize the prayers at the beginning? Thank you, thank you, thank you. We're going to do it every day, so please try. Congratulations for those of you who've made it to class 4. I really expected to be like 6 people by now. So whoever's paying, thanks Sam. Yeah, paying everyone. But you know, really, what have we learned? Because like I keep saying, you can get an academic understanding of Buddhist thought anywhere, at a book, at a university, but hopefully because of the incredible lineage of practitioners that we've got in our fingertips, we not only have some accurate Dharma information, practices, we actually have experiences that we can have delivered to us verbally with practical examples, so we actually change our lives. It's not so we can go, oh, that's interesting, you know, I'll just be happy in this shitty world as things fall apart, you know. It's not about that, you know. And so today we're going to talk about some of the misconceptions of Dharma and Buddhist thought, you know, and I'll share with you some of my, you know, my continuing misunderstandings of these things, hopefully, so you don't do it. But I want to check, we've done 3 classes, we're nearly halfway, there's only 10 classes, then there's a review, and then there's the exam. the final exam for those of you who, of course, are going to take it. What do you remember from the first class? What are we studying? I mean, this is the interactive part.
Buddhism?
What is Buddhism? But a book in particular.
Three principal paths.
Three principal paths. Yeah, three principal lams. Do you remember the Tibetan word lam means path? Yep. Lam, 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 lam. Okay. Who wrote it? Je Tsongkapa. That's awesome. This person is going to be a central figure. I keep saying that. I just want you to learn something. By the time you leave this place, you're going to have these ideas in your mind. They form the total basis of every Buddhist thought, ever. So if you have these, you have a vessel to catch everything else you have as an experience of any wisdom that you can get. So it's important you focus on these things. What are the three principal paths? And are they really paths? Are they like driveways? Answer? Renunciation. What does it mean? Renouncing nations. What does it mean?
Renouncing a wrong way of thinking.
Excellent. Renouncing a wrong way of thinking. Yeah? I'm thinking I'm having a speech impediment today. Has anybody noticed it yet? No. It must be my perception.
It's among your perception.
Yeah. Renouncing the wrong way of thinking. Yeah, so initially that's one of the first wrong thoughts about Buddhist idea. Oh, renunciation, I have to get rid of everything. I can't have any money, I can't have any possessions, I can't have pleasures, I can't have a whole bunch of things. Yeah, and that's not true. It's about how I think about all those things. That's the thing that trips us, that gets us unhappy by holding on to those things the wrong way. Is it really a driveway? Is it the three? If we were writing the, actually, what's the Tibetan name for the book? Namsum. Thank you. Lam means path. Okay, is it a path, like a driveway? If we're writing the book today, we'd go the three principal driveways. It wouldn't be a good book, right? No. It's like, hey, read the three principal driveways. Is it really a path that you follow?
Yeah, it's a mental path.
It's a mental path. What does that mean? Ah, beautiful. It's a realization. Yeah, we've all had realizations, either nominal realizations and hopefully some ultimate realizations. It just means that your mind's changed after you've had that aha moment. Who's been trying to think and meditate or just ponder the idea of renunciation? I mean, because we won't have it until we practice it. Who's actually given that a go? Yeah, and every now and then you think about it. And each step that you progress in saying, oh, I think I got it, and it becomes slippery and it goes away and then you want another beer. Each time you think about it, you're getting closer to those realizations. They're mini realizations, right? So when you get the lam for renunciation, then it's with you for a long time. And that's one of the principal things you need to do to become a master of Buddhist thought. What's the next one? Bodhicitta, which is a Sanskrit name. I can't remember the Tibetan word. Anybody remember the Tibetan word for bodhicitta? Good.
Jamsen. But I don't remember it. It's
no, good on you. The book is a good memory tool. Yeah, that's what I would have had to do. So thank you. Jamsen. Yeah? Yeah? What does bodhicitta mean? It's a thing we're trying to develop as a realization, right? Not a driveway. So what's bodhicitta? Good, that's the technical definition. Thank you very much. Sort of the technical definition. So what is the technical definition of bodhicitta?
The wish to become enlightened for every living being. For
the sake of every living. The wish to become enlightened for the sake of every living being. You know, if you're normal like me, you'll have a tendency to think of these things and then grab onto that sentence string and then it becomes a thing in your head. You have to really try often, every day, every time those things pop up, these three lamas, to break it. to actually say, well, what does it mean? Yeah, the wish, you have a wish. Yeah, you have an impulse, an energy to do something, to become enlightened. Do you really believe you can become enlightened? What the hell's enlightened? You know? We all have different levels of understanding about that. Can you transform your mind to where you get to the point where you believe, you have an impulse. You believe you can become enlightened. You believe in some level of perfection. That's why we visualize that Lama or that being at the beginning. Your mind goes there to whatever your capacity. So however, I struggled with that for the longest time, visualizing Joseph Campbell at the beginning, you know, because he was like the furthest I could imagine an evolved person being, you know. I was anti-Jeebus, you know, like I grew up Catholic, and so that was wrong, so that can't be it, because that made me unhappy, you know. So, you know, I had excluded that at that time of my life as a possibility for a being becoming evolved. There are many examples of beings that have reached some level of realization. So whatever you're imagining, if you're struggling or you're jumping in with ease at that first meditation, that gives you a clue about whether bodhicitta for you is a practical change that you can make, right? This is really important, because without these 3 lums, the rest of it is just blah blah. Yeah, go read a book about something else. Yeah, be interesting. Crystals are good, runes are nice. Yeah. What else? Tarot cards are nice. Yeah.
World peace.
Yeah, world peace. We can figure out that too. Thank you. So, do you believe? You know, and I've had and you get to revisit these over and over. I've had to revisit this one recently. Do you believe you can become something other than normal schmuck? You know? I'll tell you about that then later. And then it's not just to say, can I get free of suffering for myself? But look at all the other people around me that are blind to the suffering that's happening to them. You know? Do you have that impulse to some degree? Is it driving you to something? Bodhicitta, second lung. And when we're doing this, and I'm thinking about you people coming to this class, and you know the circumstances, for those of you that were there for the really long story about how I came to the 3 Jewels for the first time, you know, it was totally like, I'm not going there. For those of you who find yourself in a space where you're thinking about these things, you already have some wisdom here. You've already got some seed in you to hear these things. Yeah? I have a tendency to think I'm very normal. So as soon as I get an opportunity to feel, oh, maybe I can progress, I'll box in and normalize it beautifully. Yeah? So watch out for that, for you. Because, you know, 15 years later, I have to break that pattern now. Yeah? So that's bodhicitta, 3 principal paths. What's the third one? Forgot.
Correct view.
Huh? Correct view. Why? Because the other one's wrong. No. I thought, what did Tibetans think? You know, like, that's correct view. How audacious, you know. Correct view. Correct view. It's about view. It's about how you perceive your experiences in the world. How do you perceive your experiences in the world? We don't. We walk around blindly and trip over things. You know? Things are coming at us. It's your fault. I'm feeling that way. It's your fault. I've had a beautiful week of that this week. Incorrect view, Hector. It was wonderful. Because, I had built some patterns to think of things through correct view. And then the world started coming at me and I had responses to it. And I really had to hone it in this week. It was challenging. Anyone else had a challenging week this week? That does not prove that it came from the week. It still came from you. Yeah?
That's a challenge right there.
So if you did have challenges, you know, it's funny because I had this crazy lady appear in my life, living in my house for a week. She's, you know, you've heard stories about my dad. He was a crazy shaman kind of thing. Anyway, he was a crazy person, in a good way and in a bad way. So he died 1.5 years ago, and so that kind of person from my life and my thinking and connecting with that person has gone away a little. And I thought, wow, I've solved that thing. And then this lady appeared. She's my dad, with a wig. Right? And she's telling me what I can do and can't do, and so all week she's saying to me, you know, the rain means something. It means that you're going to do this and that, and you can't buy anything unless the moon is waning because blah blah blah, and you can't. And so everything is caused by outside things for her. Yeah, and she knows it as a wisdom. Yeah, and I'm challenged all the time because somewhere in there is the trigger. Yeah, for me to feel something. But she was my dad. So do we think that the week is coming at us because we had a bad week and we just proved that half the class had a bad week, you know, a rough week or a hard week? Did it come from us? This is the question about correct view. Correct view is, do we... The simplest thing I can say is, the way the world is working now, the way it's been working for millennia, the way we see it, we're forced to see it. It's not like we have a choice to see getting old, getting sick, getting illnesses and dying. Yeah, and everybody's just popping off, and people are birthing, and they have moments of wonderfulness, and then they pop off. It's been happening for millennia. You know, at one point I realized that the longest living creature on the planet was, what, 150 years old, so a turtle or something, and then, yeah, within 150 years, not a single living creature on the planet will be a creature that's here today. Not you, not me, not anything. Not a thing of consciousness on this planet will be the same in 150 years. That world, the world where things seem to flower and then turn to crap really quickly, when you fall in love and then it gets broken, when you have amazing experiences and then the next time you have them they're not so amazing. That kind of world is caused by incorrect view. Correct view is the world that is caused when you see that world and its real causes. And that was the analogy about the movie playing. So imagine being born and not knowing that movies are in sync. So you see the actions of this world doing movements, but you hear the soundtrack from 3 months ago. And you think that's normal. We think that's this world. We think that's normal. Correct view is figuring out how do you move that soundtrack to sync with the sound, with the visual. And then all of a sudden this same world, that same lady with the crazy wig, my dad with a wig, transforms into something magical. In sync. If you can figure out correct view, which is a synonym for emptiness, if you can figure out what that means, again, don't let it become a sentence. It is something for you to figure out. If you can figure that out, and there's something there, something is causing this world. Something other than what we think is causing this world, because what we think is causing this world to break. But we don't. We're doing things that try not to break it, but it breaks. We get the girlfriend, we get the work, we get the thing, but it breaks. So what is it that's causing that? If you figure it out, you can figure it out. Correct view. 3 principal paths. That's the summary for those of you who were not here. Thank you very much. Any questions? Class 1. What did we do in class 3? Do you remember? Class 2, we did what? Sorry, class 2, we talked about Buddhahood a little bit. Yeah? Do you remember the 2 bodies of a Buddha? Or parts? What were they? Dharmakaya and Rupakaya. And within those there's some divisions, but we're not going to go there. It just means the body and mind of a Buddha. Yeah, if everything is caused, then an enlightened being, a being with perfect mind and perfect body, must also be caused by something. Something has to cause perfection. If we can change one instant from now to tomorrow, that means we are not a fixed thing. If we can incrementally grow to being mediumly happy to a little bit more happy, logically it stands that if you find the right courses, you can be even happier and reduce some suffering. And if you, it logically stands that you can change 10 degrees. If it's consciousness, then you can do it 20 degrees. And if you can do it infinitely, to a point when there is no more suffering and utter bliss, physically and mentally. Dharmakaya, Rupakaya. If that's possible, which logically it stands that if we change, if we're not stagnant beings, and we're not, who has the same body that they had last year? Who wish they had? What about your mind? What about the way you look at the world? What about, did you choose to create the mind that you're looking at the world through today? Did you really have that choice? Did you maneuver it that way? A little bit, maybe. Yeah? So, if there is evolution within our short little shitty life frames, why can't you have incredible evolution? And if you can reach that, that must be caused by something. So what's the basic cause, the thing that encompasses all, the body and the mind of the most perfect being you could become? You become, not the Buddha, you. What's the main cause of the ultimate goodness?
Merit.
Ethics.
Merit.
Okay.
Merit.
Yeah.
Goodness makes goodness. Crappiness makes crappiness. Yeah? Merit. And so then we went more specific. Well, something must produce, some kind of merit must produce the mental goodness, and some merit must produce the physical goodness. Yeah, the Rupakaya. And do you remember what those were? Wisdom and ethics. Wisdom and ethics. Wisdom
is the mental part, ethics.
Thank you. So what happened to the first one?
It's a
precursor to
ethics.
Excellent. Yeah. Thank you for remembering that. Essentially, all we did in that class is prove that if you can get enlightened, and you have to check your belief levels about whether you can, then it's caused by something, and then you've got to go ahead and go do that, develop those things. And we ended up saying another way to get enlightened in a single lifetime is through the secret teachings of Buddhism, called Tantra. Yeah? And then, do you remember Mushi Musum? Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? That was really weird for me. Yeah? I just remember Mushi Musum. Yeah, the four possibilities that two things can come together. So we Mushi Musumed Tantra and the three principal paths. We Mushi Musumed Buddhahood and the three principal paths. Or they did. We just went, We actually Mushi Musumed blue and sky. Yeah, and we Mushi Musumed. What else did we Mushi Musum? I think it was Batman and Lego. Yeah, I think that's what we did. Lego Batman. So that brought us to, okay, maybe we can become enlightened. These three things are probably the cause. We better go and check it out. So we checked out in the last class, the 10 qualities of a teacher. Yeah? We didn't talk about how to take a teacher, but we talked about the 10 qualities of a teacher. That broke down in 3 parts, and what were some of the qualities you remember that I possessed? None of. The jokes wasn't one of them. Yeah?
Humility is one.
Thank you.
Tamed morality.
Sorry?
Tamed morality.
Tamed morality. Why is that important? Why should you look for a teacher that has some kind of, that is tamed, yeah? That has tamed themselves through. Morality is the
That's what you want to learn.
When you open your mind to your teacher, you want to make sure that they're tamed.
Why?
Because you you're opening yourself to their teaching.
Well, if they didn't tame themselves, how are they going to help you tame yourself? Right? Like, that's simple. Yeah? And I never thought about it that way. I'm like, wow, Tibetan's really clever. Yeah. These 10 things came to us by a Sangha. Do you remember that? Yeah. What I didn't tell you last week, and Sam alluded to it, was did a Sangha, Master of Sangha, write these 10 things? No, and this is where we get into. This was my uncomfortable zone when I first entered Buddhism. How did Master Sangha get these 10 things, the 10 qualities of a Lama? By who remembered? Who read? Who did the reading? Or who? Huh? Manjushri. Yeah, who's Manjushri? Who's Manjushri? New person in our little consciousness here. So Master Sangha attended a place called Tushita, yeah, which is a heaven of a Buddha called Maitreya, which some people call the future Buddha. And Geshe Michael's debate was around that, whether there's such a thing as a future Buddha or it's a Buddha or yeah. And he got this information from Maitreya. So the 10 qualities of a Lama, and this took me so much effort. You know, I kept putting it on the shelf. So for those of you who are in any way similar to my cynical normalizing of the world, welcome. And it's good because that mindset lets you check facts. It means you're not sitting there stupidly going, oh, okay, oh, good, I'll do that. Oh, good, okay, if you say so, I'll do that, and I'll do that. Yeah, because if you do that with me, if you do that with this information or this lineage, this might be correct. But then you must logically do it to the next idiot that sits and says, hey, you should wear funny things in your head. Because that makes you a Lama. Yeah? And then you go, okay, I'll do that. If you're using that logic to listen, if you don't have that cynical checking mindset, the one that checks for facts for you, yeah, but not just for the sake of breaking down, because there's that habit as well, just to knock things for the sake of knocking, the opposition mindset. It's not just that, it's real investigation. And if you find something in the teachings that puts a question mark, like he did for me with his Maitreya and Sangha, like, wait a minute, I'm reading a book from heaven? What's that? You know? Then put it on the shelf for a while. Put it on the shelf. And things change. So if last week we talked about the qualities of a Lama, what do you think we're going to talk about this week?
How to find a Lama.
Qualities of a student. That's because I told you that last week. Thank you very much for remembering. But we're also going to find the qualities of Dharma. Yeah? What's a Dharma? You need to speak up. Teaching. Okay. A Dharma is a teaching. Good. What is authentic Dharma? So, once I heard this from someone. What do we have up there? Who did that? Thank you, Sam. Good. Chukung mela lotong du dropa jekam. Is that the first line? Yeah. That means, so for those of you who are translating this, Tibetans do it backwards. So Chu means Dharma, Kung means source or primordial, or so the Kung of the Ganges is some iceberg somewhere and all the snow up in the mountains. La means not or doesn't have. Lo means to. Tong means no. Sorry, me means not, doesn't have. La means to. Lo means year. Tong means 1,000. Thank you. Do means for. Drupa means practice. J means to do, and Kang means but. So what do you think that means for those of you who remembered it, what I just said? I'll read it backwards. Yeah. Well, basically it means you can practice for 1,000 years Dharma that has no source or no authoritative core. It's not an authentic Dharma. You could practice a Dharma, a teaching, for 1,000 years. And then the next line is Tokpa Tsendem Mechik Nike, which is, I won't do the breaking down, but you will not develop one sliver of authentic realization. And we have these non-dharmas in the world, you know. If my dad had one, you know, he used to put open scissors under the bed, and that would stop the rain. So, you know, as a kid, I'd go and put open scissors when I wanted to stop the rain. It didn't work. So we're going to talk about what is authentic dharma, because this line, it's in your reading, is saying if you could practice for 1,000 years, you can put your energy, your life source, your attention, you can do things on this planet. If you had enough time for 1,000 years, and you won't get a single realization that will get you out of suffering, if it's not authentic. So we've got to figure out what's authentic. It's funny, the Tibetans have this, thanks Sam, the Tibetans have this thing, you know, they churn butter, and it's so cold up in the Tibetan plateaus, they churn butter and they leave the butter outside and they keep churning it, and yeah, they churn milk into butter, right? But they say that this line is like having water and churning it and expecting to get butter. Yeah. So for them it's really meaningful. For us, I guess it would be like, for those of us who drive, it would be like saying you can put milk in a car and it would go. But it would probably be you can put your credit card in the swipe of the MTA and it wouldn't go. You know, for us who don't have cars. So there are 3 qualities to authentic dharma, and we're going to talk about them first. So last week we talked about the 10 qualities of a teacher. Now we're going to look at what makes dharma. And like last week, before you let any person mingle with your consciousness, which is worse than mingling with your mind, with your body, because it has ripple-on effects for the entirety of your life. And for those of you who believe in past and future lives, reincarnation and the rest, for the stream of consciousness that continues beyond this body realm. After you die, what happens to your consciousness? We know, like the light bulb, you can break the light bulb, but electricity is still running there. What happens to that electricity that's you after you die? Because this body will go. Are you this body? You know? If I grabbed you and put you on the edge of a cliff and gave you a little push, I bet you'd think you're your body for a little second. I know I do. You know, I know the answer is no. No, it's supposed to be no. But my instincts and everything we've been doing ever since birth has been telling us I am this thing. And I look completely different to what this thing looked like 10 years ago, 30 years ago, 35 years ago.
Fused, aren't you? You're kind of fused to it. You don't really know.
You think this is it? Yeah, I am this thing.
You feel it.
Yeah. So to think about us and this body and this thing in the incorrect way forces this experience to continue like all the other experiences. Yeah. If you want to change that, because we're changeable, you can change it. It's possible, but you have to think about it the different way. You have to put different things in your mind to do that. So what are those things that will produce results? And there's 3 of them. The first one is up there under Tumpa Sangye Kisumpa, which is the teacher. Tumpa Sangye is Buddha, like in we hear it in the chant in the beginning. Kisumpa is spoken by him. So it is teaching spoken by the Buddha. Things that are actually spoken by an enlightened being, a being that has had a realization into the ultimate nature of things and has come out of it and can communicate. And so in Tibetan, that's the Kangyo. The Kangyo is the collection or the canon of scripture, if you like, that contains the Buddha's words. So for those of you who've grown up in a Christian world, is it the King James Bible that has the red little Yeah? So it's like the red letters in the King James Bible. It's Jesus' word. It's the word of the Buddha. So one of the things that qualifies, one of the things you have to check, as well as checking your teacher, is about the stuff they're teaching you. Does it refer always? Is it referring back to something said by an enlightened being, by the teacher? Is it referring back to a source that is verifiable? Or is it just Hector's stuff? Because like I said before, if you're listening to whatever I'm saying as my thing, you then have to listen to the next person that tells you the next thing. It's logical. But are they checking back to a source? And so one of the qualities, just one of the three qualities, is that it's the words spoken by the Buddha. So that is the Kangyo. And for those of you who are taking notes, originally there was something like 84,000 collections of works that, or ideas that were produced by the Buddha. Yeah, written words of the Buddha. Out of those remain about 1,108 books. Many of them were lost when I think India went through a process similar to what China went through, when many books and libraries were burnt, and so Buddhism died out in India, and the books and the rest went with it. Very similar to what has happened in the last 50 years in Tibet. So many of those works are lost, and we only have a collection of 1,108 of the Buddha's teachings, his actual speech, collected in the Kangyo. For those of you who are going to remain beyond this first class of what is Buddhism, I'll give you a little breakdown of what's collected in the Kangyo. And just similar to the Buddha's, the essence of what, or the parts of the Buddha, or the bodies of the Buddha, that you can break it up into 2 or 4 or 3 parts, you can slice the Kangyo into different forms. The first one is the Vinaya. So the first part of the Kangyo is the Vinaya. You might need or you might not need this in your quiz and exam. The Vinaya. And again, as you progress to study these things, we'll look at the Vinaya and aspects of the Vinaya. Does anybody know what Vinaya is? Because that's not a Tibetan word. What's the Vinaya? Vinaya. Vinaya.
Morality.
Morality. Yeah, it's the teachings on vowed morality. Yeah? So there's 3 groups of vows, or 8 sections of vows, etc. So it's all the teachings that talk about morality. The next section of the Kangyo, the Buddhist written word. So again, how do you make this practical? It's not just intellectual ideas here. Are you getting information from that teacher that you've qualified when you go to your next class? Are you getting information that comes from the Kangyo? Are you getting information that it is referenced even to a letter or a line from the Buddha's teaching, from his words, from the Kangyo? So if you're getting some form of morality teaching and you can verify it, then you're getting some of that. The next is the Prajna Paramitas, and I can give you the spelling for that at another time. Or the teachings on the perfection of wisdom. What's the perfection of wisdom? A synonym for that.
Emptiness.
Thank you. Emptiness. I haven't seen you. Hi. Good. I kept hearing Geshe Michael Roach go, emptiness, 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 and like I guess most people, I thought vacuumness, vacuumness. Darkness, darkness, nothingness, nothingness. I don't know your understanding of emptiness, but if you can double your attention when you hear emptiness, when you hear the Prajna Paramita, if you're going to find out the code that breaks open the way reality functions now, and you get a glimpse as to how things truly function, it will be through your understanding of emptiness. And initially it will be forced understanding, and later it will become knowledge, like you can remember it, and later it will become more of a flavor in your mind that you start looking for these things, and then you get little insights into this world, and you actually see the movie sync up until you actually have a direct realization of this thing. That is the key that unlocks this entire world, from what it is right now to the best idea you could ever imagine. The Prajna Paramitas. And so they're the perfection of wisdom. How do you perfect wisdom? Spoken by the Buddha. Not voidness, not darkness, not nothingness. Develop your, if you're going to spend any time, sure, begin with renunciation, because that'll give you the energy to do this, yeah? But this is your next target to focus. And if you've got some understanding of it, get better at it. Listen with new ears. There's something, if you're still having a suffering life, there's something you're missing. And the answer is there, you know, and I realized that with this woman that was so painful. It's my dad with a wig, you know, and I'm like, if things are empty of having an existence from their own side, if that lady did not have a shitty nature from her own side, because she thought she was great, so why was I upset? Sam thought she was fantastic. Yeah? I'm like, oh damn, you know, I couldn't get people to agree with me. So there wasn't that nature in her, but I had that experience. That experience did not come from that. That experience did not come from that, even if I got hold of it to verify that she was a little painful, right?
Your dad.
It came from my dad, that's it. No. It was dad all along. No, she has the potential to be the complete opposite of that and be an utter angel that ignites wisdom in my mind. And guess what she did this week? It's there all the time, available to you. She does not have the nature of being a shitty thing, an annoying dad with a wig. Yeah? And the nature from her side is not to be a creature that ignites wisdom either. She is neither. She was both. If you get that, your world pops open. And when you get that, hold on to it, put it in your heart, grow it. And the way you do that is by reliving it and rehabituating it. And if you have a meditation practice, that's where you set the thing on fire. Yeah? And then you can do that not just with a shitty lady or the angel lady, but you can do that with a shitty body and the shitty mind. And then you can watch the people around you who are also hurting and do it to their shitty minds and their shitty bodies to make them angelic beings. The key is emptiness. It's incredible. The next section is the 3 sections of sutras. What's the sutras?
Open teachings.
Yeah, open teachings. Open teachings of the Buddha. Yeah?
How come they're secret then?
Ha! Some of them are secret.
They're open.
And the next part are the tantras, which are the secret teachings. Yeah? And I thought it was a little elitist.
What was part of the third?
Sorry, A is Vinaya, B is Prajna Paramitas, or the perfection of wisdom. Then C is called the 3 sections of sutras. So there's 3 subsections of these sections of sutras.
Of number 1.
Number 3. Sorry.
Just don't know how we got from
1A, I, 1 is Vinaya. 1A, I is Prajna Paramita. I know, this is the beautiful thing about the Tibetans, they have lists within lists, sub-lists. So in the Kangyo, you have 4 sections. So in 1A, you have 4 sections. Does that make sense now? Sorry if I... Yeah. And the 4 sections are the Vinaya, which we talked about, vow of morality, the Prajna Paramitas, which is the perfection of wisdom. You need to spend some time every single day considering emptiness. C is called the 3 sections of sutras. 3 sections of sutras. So that's third part of that. And the last one is the Tantras, or the secret teachings.
This is part of sutras or not?
It's separate, it's the fourth one, thank you. Yeah, so if we're in the Kangyur. Kangyur has 4 sections. We're right there. The last section is the secret teachings, spoken by the Buddha directly. And you need permission to study these. You need to have a foundation of sutra to study these. And I always thought, why is it secret? You know, I know some stuff. You know, tell me the stuff. And we talked about it in the last class. Tantra isn't something you go and get, and I still didn't understand that when people explained it. You can't just go and get Tantra. You can go get a tantric book, you can go to a tantric initiation, you can do a bunch of tantric things. You can go and get total and utter misunderstandings of Tantra. They're very prevalent. They're wonderful. Yeah, you get to have lots of sex. It's fantastic, but they're wrong. Yeah, they're incorrect, and they're not these Tantras. Some of them might be based on aspects of these things. I have a friend in Australia. Hi, Evan. I better not tell you everything he told me. Because he's not supposed to tell me things. And he didn't. Oops. I forgot.
You better regret that.
I'm regretting momentarily. But I couldn't get why they were secret, you know. And the more you practice, they're secret because unless you have a basis on the open teachings, unless you understand the logic, unless you understand the 3 principal paths at a base level, how can you add complexity to that? So the Tantras are secret. It's like a self-imposed secret. Because Tantra, when it comes, your world starts syncing up. And you get magical things happening. And your brain pops, and your heart pops. And you go, this is what it's supposed to feel like to be alive. Maybe I can become perfect. Maybe I can become enlightened. And that enters your mind for the first time. And you think, it's actually possible. When that happens, you know you've done the 3 principal paths well. Because it starts coming to you. No amount of reading about it, just because you want to find the secret, is going to reveal that kind of experience to you, because you're creating that experience through practice. So it's a self-imposed secret, number 1, from yourself, because you haven't developed the courses to give you that result. The courses are in the 3 principal paths. Really internalizing renunciation. You must be sick of the way things don't work here for you to want to get out of here. And to get out of here means not to be here in the way that you are now. Same with bodhicitta. You need to have that wish and drive driven by you're sick of it. And all with correct view. Emptiness. So these things merging together inside of you as a thing, as a realization, not as a driveway, not as a line, you know, like I often do. Oh, I can rattle them off. It's not that. It's that of it. When you get that, when you think about it night and day, is it possible to get out of here? Can I stop my mum from suffering? And then you have some moment when you think, I know if I do this and that I can. And then you play with it, and then 6 months later the movie comes and you go, oh wow, there's the result. Then you get some faith that you're doing the right path. So the Tantras are part of the Kangyur, are part of the Buddhist speech. Now I wanted to know whether, you know, my problem I had with the Sangha talking to Maitreya and giving us the list of 10 things, I had a problem with that. You know, I never met Maitreya. You know, I can verify that a Sangha was a pandit and a wise being in India, an incredible scholar, an accomplished person. In fact, he was the son of a nun, and his brother Vasubandhu, him and Vasubandhu wrote the 5 great books that we're going to study in the 5 years. This is the 6 great subjects we're going to study in the next 5 years. They are responsible for more than half of the content in all the work we're going to study. These are incredible beings, sons of a nun, who had a vision, and in this vision she knew that if she had a child, if she had children, these 2 creatures would become incredible wise people. And so she did. She had these 2 sons to a local king, and they became, like her vision told her, incredible realized beings who wrote so many books on things that we're trying to internalize. So that's the first of the 3 things to verify that you're getting correct Dharma. So what? There's 1,108 books on the Vinaya and the Prajnaparamitas and the Sutras and the Tantras and so on. I can't imagine reading and understanding and internalizing all 108 of them, 1,108 of them. And that's just the Buddhist words. Yep.
Does that tie into how many beads there are on the...
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a little in there.
Yeah.
I'm going to just call it the necklace.
Yeah, let's call it the necklace. This thing. This thing, if you divide 108, you get some kind of division with 21. There's some magic in numbers. I'm not the numerologist, right? But there is some meaning there. Yes, absolutely. We will probably discuss it some way in the future that I can't remember. Yeah. So I had a problem about Master Asanga talking to Maitreya, telling me what I should look for in a teacher. I like the idea that an enlightened being could tell me if the Buddha had said it, I'd be okay with it, right? So then I had to figure out, well, who's this Maitreya dude? I never met him. No one's. So I'll tell you what gave me some peace about that when I had that on the shelf, and that was to know that that work is not in the Kangyur. That work, the works of Asanga as dictated to him by Maitreya, is not in the Kangyur. It's actually in the Tengyur, which is the next part of the things we should check about correct teachings, which is Panditekyum Sowa, which means pandit or great wise man, corruption clear away or clean. So it means that the masters or the people, great masters, work diligently to clear away impurities in the teachings. That's what it means. That's the next quality of Dharma. That beings who are realized, beings who seem to display extra supernatural powers to understand the nature of reality and explain to us things that we don't yet understand, have the capacity to put through logic and reason and weed out the natural tendency for crappy things to attach themselves to true teachings. For example, when Dharma came, when these teachings came from India and Tibet to the West, we began associating a whole bunch of stuff that wasn't there, but is here. And all of a sudden we label it Buddhism, or we label it yoga, or we label it those things, and then we have this perception that that's what true yoga is, or true Buddhism is, etc. Yeah, one of them is that idea that emptiness, meditating on emptiness is, I've heard it in so many yoga studios, and people tell me, oh, I went and studied emptiness and I'm clearing my mind, I'm not thinking of anything. I've heard people say that, you know, and it's not the case. If you have a true understanding of what Buddhism teaches, emptiness is, what the Prajnaparamitas are, it's not that. And so you now have a discernment, a capacity to say, that's not going to give, even if I practice that for 1,000 years, it will not produce me a single result. Yeah? So these are great pandits who have spent their life energy sifting through and pushing away that kind of crap from true teachings. And that's contained in the Tengyur, which are the commentaries on the... Thank you. And these have, sorry about the numbering, 2A has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 plus subsets. I'm just going to give them to you quickly and then we're going to have a break, okay? Because who's really warm in here? Yeah? Good. I'm a little warm too, so maybe everybody should know. So the Tengyur means commentaries written by human beings, translated. Yeah, translated from what?
Tibetan.
Nope, translated from the Sanskrit to Tibetan.
Sanskrit.
So that's why,
Tibetan,
yeah, Europe. So some of the great pandits that you will get to hear, the pantheon of great, incredible minds that have realized these things and then try to articulate them so we can break them down. Some of these names are Nagarjuna, Vasubandhu, Asanga, Dharmakirti, Chandrakirti, Ayurveda. All these beings you're going to hear, including Je Tsongkapa and the rest, are beings who have gone, sat in a class like you have, with a teacher, probably a little bit more intimate, in some cave, with nice tea, beautiful belly dancers, and a pipe. No. In a warm country, probably warmer than here, in India, sweaty and hot outside. And these were beings who, flesh and blood, got these ideas for the first time in their head and tried to go, what does it mean? How do I apply that to me? And their minds popped into that discerning mind that says, I better use logic and reasoning and then put it into experience and add to that to the mix to actually distill this thing that I'm being told. Yeah, plus they were taught that from somebody. So, like yourselves, these are scholars. These are people who are trying to break it down and figure out how to apply. The sections of the Tengyur, which contain about 3,400 treatises, is that what we say? Treatises? Yeah, treatises. No, I don't know how to say that. Treatises. I'm ethnic. In about 216 volumes. Yeah. First of all, these are all commentaries on. So the first one is commentaries on the Tantras. So commentaries on the secret teachings. Why and how the secret teachings function and work. And out of the 3,400, what is it? Treatises. Thank you. About 2,000 of them are about the Tantras. 2,000 of them are describing how to apply and work the secret teachings. Matt, I'm worried about you. Are you going to be okay? Yeah? Cool. Just popped into my mind. The next are commentaries on the Prajnaparamitas of the two lower schools of the Madhyamika school, for those of you who will know. The next part are commentaries on the sutras. And this is part, people saying, this is what's in the Diamond Cutter Sutra, this is what's in the Heart Sutra, this line means this line means that, this line means that. Understand the connection between that and the three principal paths and application, etc. The next part are commentaries on the Mind-Only School, which is beautiful. The Mind-Only School is one of the original schools of the four great schools of Buddhism in India. And in this section of the Tengyur, most of it covers, I guess some of it, I'll say, not most of it, covers how karma is stored in the mind, how karma functions, how it actually produces results. Karma being cause and effect, not one of these fuzzy Western ideas about karma, it was just bad luck. Yeah, it's not that. So the Mind-Only School, and in all the all the different schools of Buddhism, the higher schools, right through, use these explanations to understand the functionings of karma to this day. So they're an incredible source, very detailed source of understanding the thing that creates our experience. The next is commentaries on Abhidharma, which is the different presentations on karma, and for example, the aspects of the Abhidharma, like the vows, are accepted by all the schools as well. The next is commentaries on the Vinaya. And then we get a little bit more subtle. And I found these to be some of the interesting things that, were, oh, that's the colourful aspects of Buddhism. So, me, the idiot, I went straight for the sort of not so obvious. The Jakata tales, the birth stories, which are stories about the previous lives of the Buddha and what caused him to get enlightened in this life. So I found them fascinating. I want to tell my nephews and nieces these stories. There's some magnificent stories in the Jakata tales. The next is a section on letters, like letters by great masters to other people, and they contain in one page or several paragraphs, and in there are contained secrets about how to practice. And then they have a section on minor sciences like medicine, how to paint tankas, how to build stupas, and what the motivation should be, and the design. And then you get some minor works on, some great Indian work, not traditional Buddhist works, on understanding to decode Sanskrit, how to translate from Sanskrit. The Vedas are in there for those of you who study that. Yeah. So they're the 10 divisions of the Tengyu. The last quality of, what are we looking at? Qualities of what? Of what makes Dharma, yeah? Is that it must function, which is Drupe, Wangchok, Gi, Tokpa. What's Tokpa? Realization, yeah? So you can get a Tokpa about renunciation. So you might be thinking about renunciation, you'll be thinking, what's this mean? And you close your eyes and you try and get an experience here and there, and it's on your mind, and you're trying to generate a tokpa, a realization on renunciation. And one day you're meditating, or you've worked for months to do this, and one day you look at something and you see it break, and your whole being shifts, and you go, I don't need absolutely anything at all in this entire planet to get happy. There is nothing in Manhattan that I need, now or later, nothing. And you get that rush inside of you, and you've had a tokpa about renunciation, right? So tokpa is renunciation. So it must produce that. Dharma, if you study it, understand it, go through what the Buddha said, the commentaries, and you get it inside of you and you pay attention to it, it must necessarily prove result. Otherwise it's not a Dharma. Yeah, it's not a true Dharma. And that thing that happens to you should make you happier, by the way. Yeah? Not happier to be in the shitty world, but happier because you've realized the correct view, and you actually see how it can shift your experience. You actually begin to feel a sense of power within you to say, I've confirmed a step on this path. So when you get those tokpas, when you're listening to true Dharma, and it doesn't have to be Buddhist Dharma, we're talking about Buddhist Dharma, but you can get realizations through other Dharmas. Dharma means, awakening. So they're the 3 qualities of Dharma. Any questions before we break and Matt goes to play? Thank you. Enjoy yourselves. Let's be back at 9 o'clock, and then we'll get to the 3 qualities of a good student.
Do you have quizzes and homeworks? They've been circulating through.
Thank you. And then, thank you. So please enjoy. Go say hello.
Sign in and donate.
Sign in and donate. No, yeah, definitely. It's class is free, but the place pays rent. Thank you.